Hello everyone. You're watching sqadia.com and today our lecture topic is the sense organs and we are the fifth section of our lecture topic, that is the clinical perspectives. We will be covering glaucoma, that is increase in the pressure of the aqueous humor and in the anterior chamber of the eye. We will cover briefly the errors of refraction, that is farsightedness, the nearsightedness, and we will briefly be discussing the different types and varieties of deafness. The presence of aqueous humor in the anterior cavity of the eye creates a pressure called as intraocular pressure. And increased in this pressure is an important risk factor for glaucoma, which is now defined as a group of disorders that damage the optic nerve and cause loss of vision. As the pressure in the retina increases, the halos may be seen around the bright lights and the peripheral vision is lost. A person with glaucoma may not notice the shrinking visual field in one eye before the vision is lost is far advanced. When both eyes are affected, the person may not become aware of the gradual loss of the peripheral vision because close work such as reading does not require the edges of the visual field. Glaucoma may often be controlled with medications that constrict the pupil and flatten the iris, thus opening up access to the canal of Schlemm. If these or other medications are not effective, laser surgery may be used to create a larger drainage canal. There are two ways to control it. Either there are medications which decrease the production of basically lacrimal sac and lacrimal duct, or increase the drainage area, that is somehow open the canal of Schlemm and lacrimal sac so that it can drain into the nasolacrimal duct. Coming to the errors of refraction, normal vision acuity is referred to as 20 by 20. Then there is a nearsightedness or myopia, means that eye sees near objects well but not the distant one. If an eye has a 20 by 80 vision, this actually means that where the normal eye can see it at 80 feet, the nearsighted eye can only see it at 20 feet because it can see the near objects very well but not the far objects. The nearsighted eye focuses image from the distant objects in front of the retina because the eyeball is either too long or lens is too thick. Usually lens is adjustable, but the problem is with the eyeball is so oblong shape that as a result there is increase in the length of the eyeball, and once the lens contracts, it focuses the image way ahead of the retina rather than focusing it on the retina. This correction requires a concave lens to spread out light rays before they strike the eyes. Now, take the example. In a normal, if these are the rays which are coming in, usually when they are coming from the far object, they are almost either parallel or converging. And lens can converge them back onto the retina in a normal eye. But in a nearsighted eye, either this is an oblong shape eye, or there is something problem with the lens. As a result, the lens focuses so much that the image is formed ahead of the retina, and this results in because of as the retina is actually involved in the visual acuity, so the visual acuity is affected. So correction would be with the concave lens. So as the lens, the concave lens actually diverges the light so enough that it focuses it on the retina. Coming to the farsightedness, that is hyperopia, means that eye can see distance object well, but not the close one. Such an eye may have an acuity of 20 by 10, which means that eye which is affected can see up to 20 meters, while the normal eye can only see up to 10 meters. That is, it sees at 20 feet, but a normal eye can only see it at 10 feet. The far-sighted eye focuses from near objects behind the retina because the eyeball is either too short or lens is too thin. Correction requires the convex lens to converge light rays before they are striking the eye. Now, the light rays from nearby objects are usually diverging, so the lens needs to become more convex to converge them onto the retina. This is the example. If the tree is near to it, usually the light would be normally they're parallel, but it would be diverging from a close by object. So lens cannot, if it cannot contract as hard, for example, in old age, and result is that image is actually formed behind the retina. Actually, there is no image formation, but results in basically poor visual acuity because image cannot be formed on the retina. If you give a convex lens which can help this lens to converge more light so that image can be formed on the retina, then this will be a correction of the farsightedness or hyperopia. Now coming to the last topic, the deafness. Deafness is the inability to hear properly, and it is divided into two subtypes. There is a conduction deafness and there is a nerve deafness, or called as sensory neuronal deafness. This is further divided into the peripheral eighth nerve impairment and central auditory cortex deafness. Now, if you see over here, we have just discussed the anatomy, that there is an external ear, then the middle ear, and there is an internal ear. The sound waves have to be transmitted from external ear to the internal ear. If there is anything wrong with this transmission of sound waves, for any reason, this would result in conduction deafness. But if the sound waves are being properly transmitted, but there is some problem with the cochlear part of the vestibulocochlear nerve, and this is actually not, these nerve impulses not carried to the auditory cortex, then this would result in the sensory neuronal deafness. Now, sometimes the conduction part is all okay, the vestibular cochlear nerve is all okay, and it's being carried to the auditory cortex, but there is something wrong with the auditory cortex that it cannot perceive those nerve impulses. Then this would further result in a sensory neuronal type of deafness. Conduction deafness means impairment of one of the structures that transmit vibration. The example include punctured eardrum, because if the eardrum is ruptured, this cannot vibrate and transmit the sound impulses. Arthritis of the auditory bones, for example, they cannot vibrate properly and transmit the sounds. Middle ear infection, which actually results in a lot of fluid collection and debris and cells collection in the middle ear. As a result, the transmission of sound is affected. For example, or there could be simply earwax. If they so much in some patients, there's so much secretion of earwax that external auditory meatus becomes clogged or blocked by this, and this can also cause some degree of conduction deafness. Coming to the nerve deafness. Nerve deafness is impaired of the eighth cranial nerve or the receptors for hearing in the cochlea. The example includes some antibiotics used to treat bacterial infection. At times, certain antibiotics such as amikacin or gentamicin do affect the eighth cranial nerve, and they can sometimes kill the cells of the cochlea, which are actually transmitting the cochlear part of the vestibular cochlear nerve. And this can result in central type or nerve deafness. Nerve deafness is a rare complication of viral infection as well, such as mumps or congenital rubella or torch infections, we call it. Now, there is other some sub part of a sensory neuronal type of deafness called as central deafness, in which there is a damage to the auditory areas in the temporal lobe. If this type of deafness is rare but may be caused by brain tumor, meningitis, or cerebrovascular accident in temporal lobe, and as a result, the cerebral cortex has actually been damaged and it cannot perceive those nerve impulses. This will also result in a central type of sensory neuronal deafness. Now, if you see over here, this is actually showing the ear structure. Now, this is the external ear. This is the tympanic membrane. This is the middle ear, and this is the inner ear, containing cochlea and semicircular canals. And as you can appreciate, vestibular nerve and cochlear part of the vestibular cochlear nerve is going on. If the sound waves cannot come and is transmitted along, then there will be conduction deafness. It could be due to earwax, or blockage of ear, could be ruptured tympanic membrane, could be middle ear infections, could be arthritis of the bone. All this would hamper the conduction of sound wave from external ear to the cochlea. But if there is something wrong with, for example, there is bacterial infection or viral infection, or there could be secondary to drugs, this nerve is affected, then even the sounds are being conducted and cochlear stimulated, but then the cochlear stimulations cannot be carried by the cochlear nerve. This will result in a central type of a deafness, a sensory neuronal deafness. Now, over here, it is actually showing this is the central type of sensory neuronal deafness, this is the peripheral type, and this is mainly part which is involved in the conduction deafness. By this, we have come to the end of the fifth section. We have briefly discussed the glaucoma, errors of refraction, that is hypermyopia and myopia,
and briefly discuss the different types of deafness, that is the conduction as well as the sensory neuronal type of deafness. Keep watching sqadia.com. Thank you very much.